I am with the poker princess, Molly Bloom. Do you like that nickname?
I'll never get rid of that nickname.
Okay, we're just with Molly Bloom, whatever her nickname is or isn't. Hey everybody, Robbie Straczynski here for Cardplayer Lifestyle. We are at the Unibet Open in Bucharest, Romania, and I am with the poker princess, Molly Bloom. Do you like that nickname?
I'll never get rid of that nickname.
Okay, we're just with Molly Bloom, whatever her nickname is or isn't. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you
you
very
too,
much for
Robbie.
agreeing to this. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, so to the best of my knowledge, this is your first appearance at a mainstream poker event. It's a public festival at the Unibet Open rather than the private games that you used to run. What's your experience been like so far?
I'm taken with how civilized it is.
Okay.
I am used to there being a lot more like temper tantruming in the poker room.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. This is your first trip to Bucharest, right?
It is, yes.
So, and you've been here for 2 days?
Yeah,
Something like that?
2 days.
Okay, so what's
4
it been
days.
like so far in the city and here in the Marriott?
It's been pretty magical.
Yeah.
I got an incredible welcome at the airport, starting at the airport. They put me in the presidential suite.
Sweet.
Yeah. I got to see Parliament today and eat at a fantastic restaurant last night. And the city's beautiful, architecture's beautiful. There's a lot of history here, and it's a really cool experience.
So you're going to put a good review on Yelp, basically?
Yeah, I'm gonna give Bucharest a great Yelp review.
I like it. Okay. So obviously we're going to talk about the movie Molly's Game.
Mm-hmm.
So first there was the book, then there was the movie. Could you sort of clue us in as to how that happened? How did the book become a movie?
After I wrote the book, I realized that I needed more firepower. In terms of, I needed a rebranding, if you will.
Okay.
I was a convicted felon. I had just pled guilty to a felony.
Mm-hmm.
I was broke and millions of dollars in debt,
Sure.
and the tabloids had been telling my story. And so I needed a really sort of scalable rebranding campaign, and I felt like a movie would be a good way to do that. So then I decided that I would try to learn what I could about the movie industry and, how to make something that's pretty statistically improbable more probable. So I started running numbers on screenwriters. And kind of landed on Aaron Sorkin.
I see. Okay.
And went around to Hollywood and asked people if they could get me a meeting with him.
You just like knocked on doors.
Kind of, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Takes a lot of guts. Well,
Well, survival mode is a whole different beast.
For sure.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, to what extent were you present, and did you have a say during the making of the film? How often were you in contact or in touch with Aaron while he was making the movie?
I worked with Aaron every day for 8 months.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like being interrogated by a genius, you know?
Did you sort of have like a veto rights or something? If he wanted to do something, he's like, wasn't really like
No,
that?
Aaron said to me, look, if I do this movie, you're not going to have any creative control.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, I agree, but just so you know, I'm your only research material. So,
For sure.
I did have a bit of say.
Got it. Okay. Back in January, I interviewed a gentleman named Josh Leichner. He was the poker consultant for the movie.
Okay.
So he was very involved in showing how the poker was. How do you feel? Do you feel that the poker, as portrayed in the movie, was accurately reflected what actually happened in real life?
The storylines?
When you see like poker, the hands were somewhat dramatized.
Right.
I assume it's a movie after all.
Right.
But generally, the storylines, what happened at the tables,
The
etc.
storylines were all based on actual events. Yeah, there was no creative license there. Of course, he had to make the hands work. And also I wouldn't have remembered.
Okay, got it.
How it all went down.
All right. What was it like seeing your story with your own eyes being made into a motion picture, and specifically, you said you were there for 8 months, watching Jessica Chastain, her character portrayal of you?
Well, to clarify, I was only, I worked with Aaron 8 months basically in his office with his team on the screenplay. I wasn't on set ever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the first time I saw the movie was at the Toronto Film Festival with 2,000 people in my family.
Holy crap. What was that like, then seeing the finished product for the first time?
It's still, I'm usually good at describing my feelings or certain scenarios, but that one I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Wow. Yeah, it was a pretty crazy moment.
My goodness. And Jessica's portrayal of you?
I loved Jessica's portrayal.
Yeah.
I hope that I make being me look half as good as she is.
You play you very well so far, I'll say. You already achieved some fame. Like you said, you needed the more firepower with the film. But when the book happened, so people started knowing who Molly Bloom is. Now everyone knows your name. Describe, I guess, over the last couple years, if anything has changed in your life in terms of now people know you, like what's that experience been like?
The biggest change is that I think when the tabloid sort of monopolized telling the story, people's perspective on me and what I did was a certain way, and it was more like along the lines of like a Heidi Fleiss type story, right? The madam. Yeah. Right. And then after the book and the movie, I think people started to see it more as, I was a 23-year-old girl who was trying to build a business. And I certainly made mistakes along the way, but it humanized it. Sure. The story, and it also gave light to that this was more of an entrepreneurial venture and less of like, let me, just be the madam of something. I mean, it really was like I was more of like a CEO.
Got it. You personally, do you have any poker playing background? Do you ever play in home games, or have you ever played?
I've literally never
Not
played
a single
for money.
hand.
No.
Wow. So how'd you get into poker in the first place?
I had just retired from the U.S. ski team, and I was finishing school and headed to law school, and I just took a year off, and I was a waitress, and I was asked to be a cocktail waitress at a poker game, and I walked in, and it was this game, with the A-list movie stars and the heads of banks, and I just had this light bulb moment, like, wow, this is an incredible way to build a network. Wow. And then I saw these people who were so much larger than life, so obsessed with this game, and I just realized I could probably build a business out of it.
Got it. Well, you're here at the Unibet Open Bucharest. You're going to be opening the Queen's Rules ladies event. Without naming names, obviously, were there any ladies who participated in the high-stakes game you used to run?
Never.
Not a single woman?
No.
Not even once?
No.
Wow. I mean, well, in a sense, that sort of reflects a little bit. Poker events, you have about 5% usually at most participation in live events. One school of thought is that if there were more prominent women in poker, that could encourage more women to come into the game. Is there anything in particular that you think would be a catalyst for women to start coming and playing poker?
Well, I just also want to clarify, if I would have allowed pros in my cash game, I think that women would have played. I think women were averse to playing for millions of dollars recreationally.
Got it.
In terms of more women playing poker professionally, or
just recreationally, just like coming out to the casino, having a good time for $100 or something.
I think more exposure, seeing more women involved, more listening to the sort of why it's a good game to play, and how it kind of it trains the mind, and it's about psychology and math, and I think it's a very appealing game.
Sure. Well, interviews like these, basically, that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Do you foresee yourself perhaps becoming a little bit more of a public figure within the poker industry, or making more appearances at events in the future?
I don't know. It's hard for me to predict the future. It's been so unpredictable for so long.
I get it. Okay. Last question. This is something like last minute. I noticed your Twitter bio says, I gotta quote it here as I get it accurate. I built playgrounds for powerful men. Now I'm opening a club for women with the grit and drive to make their mark. And then your website, I'mMollyBloom.com. go there, says, I'm opening doors for ambitious women so that we can connect, grow, and succeed together. I was hoping you might be able to elaborate a little bit on that. What is this club? Where? What's it all about?
Sure. Well, like I said, I realized that I have a certain skill set, right? I was able to create these transformational experiences for men to help them feel more like James Bond. But what essentially happened is the only thing that it did was make me money. There was no purpose to it, really, right? Which was fine. I was in my 20s and I wanted to live this big life or whatever. But now knowing that I have that skill set and knowing what I really care about and that I need to at this point in my life have my pursuits be attached to purpose, I'm looking at ways to create these transformational experiences for women to help them thrive, to help them support each other. And, you know, I'm a learner and I'm in this new world now. And so the first part of that is writing another book.
Okay.
The second is speaking to people.
Sure.
And the third will be a way to scale it. And so that's what I am in the process of figuring out right now.
Well, that sounds really interesting. Well, good luck to you. And again, this has been Robbie at cardplayerlifestyle.com. And of course, Molly Bloom, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Robbie.
Really appreciate it. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.